everybody. It's Chris Salcedo Show. Telephone number is 281-558-5738, 281-558-KSEV. When you want to start weighing in, when we get to the phones, start weighing in on what we're talking about today. I'm going to welcome on our guest right now, Dr. Richard Giordano. He was raised in the south side of Chicago, was a teacher, high school principal for over 20 years. It was his job to actually rate teachers. He wrote a book about the experience, and the book is entitled Ineptitude, Conformity, and Obfuscation, the Fraud of Teacher Evaluation in Public Schools. Sir, welcome to the Chris Salcedo Show.
Good morning, Chris. Nice to be with you.
It's great to have you here, sir. So give me the premise of the book, if you will.
Well, it's interesting. The other night, I was watching Dr. Bill Bennett, and he made he quoted the ancient philosopher, Greek philosopher Plato, who said the two important questions are, who is teaching our children, and what are they teaching them? And I find it interesting, as I think you and your viewers will, that over 2,000 years later today, we still can't answer that question. We don't know what our teachers are teaching them, because the people who are charged with the responsibility of telling us, the principals, school principals, don't know either.
How do you solve that problem?
Well, I present a solution for that very problem in my book. I don't just complain about the issue, which is that teachers are inept, that there's a conformity in the educational establishment, what I call the education coterie, and a great deal of obfuscation, confusion of the issue. I do have a lot of issues I present, but I also present the solutions that can really change the circumstance.
Are you as alarmed as many people I am at the number of children we are graduating who find socialism or collectivist thought acceptable?
Well, having been in education for over 25 years, I've gone beyond the point of alarm to the point of wondering what's going on. But yes, socialism, of course, is antithetical to the American way of life. It doesn't work. Everybody who has a cogent thought in his or her mind knows that. And yet that is the agenda that's being presented. You often hear it being presented at the university level, but I think what a lot of people don't understand is that a lot of this, in fact, all of this, emanates and originates from the K-12 public schools.
Indeed.
And that comes back to one of Plato's first questions. Who are the people teaching our children? And I don't think that the people in society and the public who really don't know what their local boards of education are doing, they don't know what's going on, and their boards do, often infiltrated by a lot of outside activists.
I've always been of the opinion that it's not so much the teachers. The teachers are every bit as much the victim of this system, of this government-run system, as the children are. Because as you rightly point out, it's administration, it's these school boards, it's these people profiting off of government-run education that seem to set the agenda. And always the people last in consideration are the teachers' compensation and the children. Are they learning anything? And it seems to me that the system is a failure, this government-run system, because it's just like any other government program, that it exists to perpetuate itself, not to fulfill its mission. There is no difference, in my estimation, between government-run education and Amtrak, or government-run education and the post office. What is your take?
Well, there's a great deal of similarity, because in all of these institutions, governmental institutions, and we're talking about government schools here, essentially, the issues of conformity, of groupthink. One of the hosts on another network likes to tagline each of his shows with the enemy of groupthink. Well, the home of groupthink today is in public schooling. And it's found also, as you mentioned, in Amtrak and other locations. But it's really a devastating, very, very insidious issue in the public schools today. And once again, my book is intended, by the way, the website is teacherevaluationfraud.com for those who want to find out more about why I'm saying these things and about what the circumstance is. But it's a very, very dangerous situation. And I think, quite frankly, without being an alarmist, it is something that is going to underpin either the success or failure of our country.
Dr. Richard Giordano is our guest right now, ladies and gentlemen. You see the book right there, Ineptitude, Conformity, and Obfuscation. He's written about this. Accountability is big, and there have been some well-intentioned people in the past that have wanted to put accountability in our schools. Test the kids, see what they know. And of course, you have a lot of teachers and a lot of districts complaining. There's and I can tell you that's the case in the state in which I broadcast in Texas, and I know it's not unique to Texas. There's too much emphasis put on these evaluation tests. However, in the state in which I'm broadcasting, 50% of the students here can't read to grade level. So how do you balance accountability with actually accomplishing the mission of teaching kids?
I think testing, Chris, is a part of the equation in terms of determining quality education. But in my view, again, based on my experiences and having evaluated hundreds of teachers, what really needs to occur is there needs to be a better quality of the process of determining whether good teaching is occurring. The testing is going to be a function of, the testing results, I should say, will be a function of the teaching that's occurring. If we don't know what the teaching is about or who's evaluating it or whether they can do it or not, I mean, we know who's evaluating it. We know they can't do it. That's a big issue. And in terms of the testing, in the city of Detroit, 96% of the teachers are rated either effective or highly effective. And yet 5% of the students score below grade level in math, and 7%, only 5% are proficient in math, and 7% are proficient in reading.
I have a saying that I kind of stumbled on here now it's about 8 years ago, that there's been a de-emphasis in teaching the Constitution, a de-emphasis placed in the government-run schools on history. And my supposition is that the left-wingers who are in charge of many of these districts, the reason why they're so afraid of teaching history is they're terribly afraid people are going to learn from it. And this goes back to the discussion about why socialism now is saying, oh, it's not that bad. Because these individuals inside the schools are not being taught, these young kids are not being taught about the corrosive dangers of collectivist thought. Any truth to that?
Well, absolutely. And George Santayana, decades ago, said those who do not know history are condemned to repeat it. And unfortunately, what you've just said is germane. If young people don't know what the history of socialism is, they'll do exactly what you would expect them to do, is what you're seeing today, which is why Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has such great cachet in our society.
Now, let me ask, final question I want to ask you, and I know it's going to be a controversial question. In my estimation, the thing that's missing from government-run education is competition. They don't have any competition, and I believe as a conservative, competition drives excellence. Why not school choice? Doesn't school choice solve a lot of the problems you've identified in your book and a lot of problems that I've identified in our culture?
I think school choice, as you say, competition, which as we've seen works in our markets, is truly the only answer for the dilemma, the quagmire that we find in public government schooling today. And yes, it is the way that we need to go, but the answer as to why we're not going there is resident in teachers' unions. Teachers' unions are antithetical to school choice and competition.
Yeah, well, I couldn't agree more. They you know what, unions to a varying degree have influence in the various states. Here in Texas, not so much, but they find ways around it. Look, Dr. Richard Giordano, it was a pleasure to meet you, sir. The name of the book, ladies and gentlemen, Ineptitude, Conformity, and Obfuscation, the Fraud of Teacher Evaluation in Public Schools. Pick it up. Appreciate your time and expertise here on the Selcedo Show.
Thank you, Chris. It's been my pleasure.
Sir, thank you very much. Telephone number, folks, you want to weigh in is 281-558-5738. 281-558-KSEV. That is the telephone number. Look, I've got to be honest with you. This is something that's a passion for this program, getting things right in government-run education. We believe this is the genesis of a lot of the society's ills, from the pop culture to what we find acceptable in government and from government. In that vein, it brings me right back full circle to AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And let me get out of the phones. Louis is hanging on. Louis, appreciate you waiting here for the Chris Salcedo Show. What say you? Louis, can you hear me?
Got to doing with this gentleman. I like that.
Oh, hello, Louis.
Hold
on a minute. The first part of your comments were cut off. I wanted to make sure that you got your full comments in. Go ahead.
Yes, I said that I enjoyed that interview because this is what a lot of people, especially parents, need to know. because there used to be an era when, and a time when parents used to go to school and they wanted to find out what they were teaching the children, make sure that they had good passing grade, that they were studying, that they were doing homework. Ever since they took the homework out of school and physical, when they give you a reset for an hour, laziness came into kids are getting overweight, they're not studying, and then to make matters worse, all this social media and cell phones are distracting these kids.
Wow.
They get more exposed to learn all this so-called garbage that they teaching.
I'm so glad you said. I'm so glad you said that too, because it's so hard today for teachers. Teachers already have so much stacked against them. They're underpaid because their administrators get all the big bucks, all these highly paid six-figure. I mean, I don't know how it is around the rest of the country, but I could speak for it because I've experienced it in California and experienced here in the state of Texas. These administrators, Louis, and you've heard me talk about these guys before. I mean, they're making $300,000, $400,000 a year, and
that's the reason why it's happening.
Exactly, and these administrators they never set foot in the classroom, and they never educate kids, but they're taking all of this money, and there are thousands of them in the various states, and everybody wonders, gee, I wonder why there's no money left over for the teachers or for the kids.
Do you remember this long time ago, Chris? I know that you know this. Remember when they said that back in the 60s, we take your sons and your grandkids, you crack a few eggs to put it.
That's right. You can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. I remember that. Hey, Louis, thank you very much for the call, man. I got to scoot to a break. 281-558-5738, 281-558-KSEV. It's not just AOC. It's the entirety of the Democrat Party that relies on an uneducated populace. And it's why it's part of a multi-layered system, I believe, our political opposition has undertaken. And I think it's to the detriment of the country that Republicans have surrendered on this particular issue. Back in a minute, the Chris Salcedo Show. Here on the Voice of Texas and Newsmax TV.